Guys, this is huge. This morning when we were talking about the telematics system, someone pointed me over to X to look at Big Old Dog's post, where he was pointing out an error that I didn't think was correct. However, I went and checked the actual chip and the capacity of that chip, being the Micron JWB57, and sure enough, it is certainly a 4G chip. The reason I wasn't twigging is because the document lodged by the Commonwealth calls it a 4GB chip. And indeed, the Big Old Dog also listed it as a 4GB chip. GB, however, stands for gigabytes, and the chip is listed as gigabits. That's a vast difference. As the Big Old Dog has calculated, 4 gigabits is indeed 500 megabytes. So then I decided to look up the capacity of the other chip that is listed in the Commonwealth's notice, and lo and behold, what do I find? It is also a gigabit chip, and there's a whole list of them here, but if you look at the memory size, they are all 2GB, not byte, and that's a whole other calculation. 2 gigabits is 250 megabytes. This means the original amount of data that was pulled from these two chips is actually the capacity of the chips. But oh my god, I'm so excited. Yes, he used it. Not only did he use it, but he's hired his own expert to prove it. So, let me get it up on the screen. Hang on. So, this was filed. I have to get to the last page to tell you when. Pretty sure it was just filed yesterday. Or today or something. Let's get some, that's better. Actually, let's get me out of there. You guys don't need to see my little box blinking. All right, so it says, now comes the defendant, Karen Reid, and respectfully files defendant's response to the Commonwealth's notice for scheduling, reassembly and testing of defendant's Lexus telematics system. As set forth herein, the Commonwealth's new digital forensics expert, Shannon Burgess, has opined that there were deficiencies in the chip-off procedure conducted by defence expert Maggie Gaffney on the defendant's Lexus infotainment and telematics system as a result of what he claims may have been programmer's error. As set forth herein, Ms. Reid objects to the Commonwealth's position with regard to the new testing protocol as follows. 1. Defendant vehemently disputes Mr. Burgess' characterisation of the chip-off procedure conducted by Ms. Gaffney, which is based on Mr. Burgess' fundamental misunderstanding of the difference between megabit and megabyte. You! Well done, guys. Well done. Ms. Reid respectfully requests that the court adopt the protocol proposed by the defence expert Matthew Segura. DeSogra. For any, I freaking hate names, guys. For any future testing of the infotainment and telematics system, which properly accounts for Mr. Burgess' misunderstanding relating to the storage size of the chips in question, and seeks to prevent further mistakes by Mr. Burgess, which could result in the unnecessary destruction of evidence. Yeah, I know. I'm so dumb when it comes to other cases, aren't I, Anne? Can't know what I'm possibly talking about. And yet here we are. Now let me get to page 2 of that. Okay, the statement of the facts. On October 11th, 2024, the Commonwealth filed a notice of rescheduling assembly and testing of defendant's Lexus infotainment system, requesting that its new digital forensic expert, Shannon Burgess, be permitted to engage in further potentially destructive testing of Miss Reed's infotainment and telematics system by conducting a chip-on procedure. The Commonwealth's request is premised on two opinions offered by Mr. Burgess regarding the analysis of the telematics and infotainment system associated with Miss Reed's vehicle. One, that the evidence acquired in the December 2023 chip-off was incomplete, and that there is more data that was not acquired that exists on the chips. And two, that new hardware and software updates have been developed since the chip-off was conducted in December 2023, which may assist in interpreting the data. High qualified expert Matthew DeSogra, am I saying it right? DeSogra, a licensed professional engineer and certified IPC specialist with Delta V Forensic Engineering Inc., has reviewed the chip-off work conducted by Ms. Gaffney and opines that Mr. Burgess misunderstands the basic digital forensic concepts, including inter alia the conversion of megabytes to megabits, negating certain of his opinions and necessitating that extra protocols be put into place to prevent programmer error by Mr. Burgess. Mr. Burgess being the programmer, or not programmer. Just call him Matty D, all right. We'll do that as per Kevin's suggestion. Mr. Matty D. Exhibit A, declaration and proposed protocol of Matty D. As set forth below, Mr. Burgess' incorrect belief that the initial chip-off procedure failed to retrieve all of the data because of programmer error stems from his misunderstanding regarding the storage size of the chips in questions. Notwithstanding that fact, Ms. Reed consents to a chip-on procedure for the sole purpose of determining whether any of the updated software or hardware may assist in interpreting the data contained on the components in question. Smart move, boys and girls. They're so clever. So they're not saying that there's going to be extra information as claimed by the Commonwealth. They're just saying, we would like to see if you guys jimmied the information we already had, essentially. Not that they've said it in that many words, but that's what it means. Part 2, Mr. Burgess fundamentally misunderstands the difference between a megabit and a megabyte. In his declaration, Mr. Burgess incorrectly concludes that the defendant's digital forensic expert, Ms. Gaffney, failed to extract all of the data from the two modules in the vehicle when she conducted the initial chip-off procedures in December 2023. Back over here. Let's get to page 3. His opinions and conclusions are based on his incorrect belief that the prior chip-off procedure conducted by Ms. Gaffney resulted in 3 files totaling only 8 megabytes in size, when there should have been closer to 64 megabytes in size, based on the total flash memory component of the chips in question. As explained in the attached declarations of defense expert Matty D, Mr. B, misunderstands the difference between megabytes and megabits. In point of fact, manufacturing specifications established that the total flash memory component of the chips in questions is equal to 64 megabits, not megabytes. Significantly, 64 megabits is equal to 8 megabytes. Thus, Ms. Gaffney successfully acquired 8 megabytes of data from the chips during the December 2023 chip-off. There's no more data. But we can actually check if they jimmied the data, so that's a good thing. Thus, Ms. Gaffney successfully acquired the 8 megabytes in question. Converting megabytes to megabits is a basic digital forensic concept which is critical to successful data acquisition and analysis. Mr. B failed. Dunno, you failed. Mr. B's failure to properly record the total memory capacity of the components at issue could cause the Commonwealth to seek and perform unnecessary destructive testing, which could, in turn, result in unnecessary destruction of evidence. Accordingly, as set forth below, the defence respectfully requests that a defence expert be permitted to be present during any future testing conducted by the Commonwealth, and that the defence expert be permitted to halt any testing and seek court intervention if Mr. Burgess screws it up. Makes any future mistakes which risk compromising the data at issue. The infotainment data acquisition protocol. Mr. Burgess incorrectly reports the total memory storage of the components at issue. Ms. Reid respectfully requests that Mr. Burgess' proposed infotainment data acquisition protocol be updated as follows to prevent any programmer error, inverted commas, during future testing. The suspension S99JL064 J001 is a 64 megabit flash memory, not a 64 megabyte flash memory component, as Mr. Burgess incorrectly states. Notably, 64 megabits is equal to 8 megabytes, which suggests that all available data was successfully retrieved during the first acquisition by none other than the defence's expert. The Micron JWB57 is a 4 gigabits flash memory component, not a 4 gigabyte flash memory component, as Mr. Burgess incorrectly states. Notably, 4 gigabits is equal to 500 megabytes. This is pretty much my video. This is my video written in emotion, guys. Which suggests that all available data was successfully retrieved during the first acquisition. The Micron 29F2G08ABAEA is a 2 gigabit flash memory component, not a 2 gigabyte flash memory component, as Mr. Burgess incorrectly states. Notably, 2 gigabits is equal to 250 megabytes, which suggests that all available data was successfully retrieved during the first acquisition. Additionally, Mr. Burgess proposes that he perform additional chip-off acquisition attempts to ensure complete data capture. This step is unnecessary because all available data was successfully retrieved during the first acquisition. In other words, the file size of the acquisition already matches the expected memory storage capacity of the components. However, as explained by Maddie D, Mr. Burgess should conduct an acquisition to ensure that the contents of the memory chip have not been altered by confirming the checksum. So this is what we were talking about with regards to the phone data not being checked, not being verified. A checksum is the same thing as a hash value, and it tells us whether the data has been jimmied or not, or it's the original data. If the checksum matches the original chip, then it's the original data, which we're suspecting it's not. So an alternative proposed protocol for the examination of the infotainment and telematics testing system, sorry I skipped a line, which was prepared by defense expert Maddie D, a licensed professional engineer, is filed herewith. As set forth in the protocol proposed to Maddie D, the defence respectfully requests that the defence expert Maddie D be permitted to be present during any future testing conducted by the Commonwealth, and be permitted to temporarily halt any testing if Mr. Burgess attempts to screw it all up. Anyway, next page. Come on. Oh, that's the last page. All right, so let me go to this one and share this tab. And so this is the affidavit from Maddie D. I, Maddie D, under oath, do depose and state as follows. Right, and here's the thing, Kirks. It was his first motion off the straight out the gate. It was his first motion, and he screwed it up. First freaking motion. It is hilarious. So even if it wasn't us who brought it to the defense's attention and they just realized it themselves, we're still pretty proud that we picked it up, right? And it was a group effort, as I said. And Olivia went and checked all our data to make sure we got it right. So so I got the original information from Old Dog. I checked it. I found it was right. It was correct. And then Olivia watched my video and read Old Dog's post and went and did her own checking, and she found it was right. And now the defense has checked it and they found it was right. So we've all been checked and double checked at worst case scenario. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't come from us. Anyway, I'm pleased that they found it either way. So I am Maddie D. I am a licensed professional engineer in North Carolina and certified. I currently work as a professional engineer with blah, blah, blah. The following facts and information are based on my own personal knowledge. I have reviewed the Commonwealth's notice of scheduling the telematics system and proposed protocol prepared by Mr. B. Certain statements set forth in Mr. B's proposed protocol, which form the basis of his opinions, are factually inaccurate. In his analysis, Mr. B misstates the memory storage capacity of the chips in question by failing to account for the differences between megabit and megabyte, gigabit and gigabyte. Sorry, I said those backwards, but you guys know what we mean. Conversion between and among these units is a foundational digital forensics concept which necessarily impacts data acquisition protocols and analysis thereof. I think we've got more. I don't know how many pages this is. Okay, this is only 2 pages, so we'll be done before the rain gets here. And I can get kidnapped to whatever Starlink's content is. I personally obtained and reviewed the manufacturing specifications of the chips at issue. In this case, Mr. Burgess misstates the memory storage capacity of the chips, which were removed from Miss Reed's Lexus infotainment and telematics system as follows. Based on the above, I suggest that Mr. Burgess' proposed protocol be amended as follows. Step 1. Here's how you're supposed to do it, dickhead. Step 1 of Mr. Burgess' proposed protocol, labelled Reattempt Chip-Off Acquisition, is unnecessary because the file size of the acquisition performed by Ms. Gaffney already matches the expected memory storage capacity of the components. However, an acquisition may be conducted for the sole purpose of ensuring the contents of the memory chips have not been altered since the last testing by recording the checksum of the chip in advance of any new testing. This is proper court procedure. If Bez says no to this, then she's doing what she's always done, and that is not verified evidence being entered, digital evidence being entered into the court record. B. Defendant's expert shall be permitted to be present during any future testing or data acquisition conducted by the Commonwealth and or its experts. And C. Defendant's expert shall be permitted to immediately halt any testing that I deem places the data at issue to prevent unnecessary destruction of data until such time as the defense can be heard before this court. So this is awesome. This is awesome. Most dishonorable auntie will not let her emails with meatball be uncovered. Yes, that's the next thing, isn't it? Shall we do that next? Shall we go over the... Yes, this is crazy good news. So kicked him right in the meatballs.